Kayla and I'm back with another video. Today we're here with another book video. I wanted to sit down and chat about my favorite small town romance series. Pretty much any one of my book friends will tell you that I am a small town romance gal and they always come to me for small town romance recs. So I thought I would sit down today and take you through my top 10 favorite small town romance series. These are books, series, authors that I always rave about, always talk about, so I thought I would sit down and talk about them all today. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Kayla. I'm a social media manager and personal assistant for indie romance authors, and I do work, productivity, and book videos here on my channel, so I'd love it if you stuck around and subscribe. You can also find me on booktok and bookstagram. I post almost daily on both of those. That's enough talking for this intro. Let's hop into my favorite small town romance series. The first small town romance series we're going to talk about is a series that I read for the first time back in 2019, and I've reread it several times since then. It's the Miles Family series by Claire Kingsley. This is 4 full-length books and 1 novella. The 4 full-length books each focus on a different Miles sibling, and then the 5th book is a novella and it's about the mom of all of the siblings. The series is set in a small town in the middle of Washington, and they all live and work on the winery that they own. One of my favorite things about this series and the next series that I'm going to talk about is that there is a plot that spans the whole 4 books of the series, so you're kind of sucked in and drawn into that storyline across each of them, and then all 4 books have their own storyline and happily ever afters. Book 1, Broken Miles, is a second chance marriage romance, which normally I'm not a big fan of, but this is probably one of my favorites in the series. I love this book. Zoe and Roland got married young and their marriage didn't last, but now that Roland is back in their small town, back on the winery, they might have a second chance at love. Book 2 is a brother's best friend romance. Chase and Bryn have known each other almost their whole lives. Chase is Bryn's brother's best friend. Chase is practically another member of their family, and he's never seen Bryn like that until he sees her making out with another guy at a diner and he steps in. Reckless Miles is a one-night stand turned forever romance. This one is so funny. Cooper will just make you laugh and laugh and laugh. This book is definitely the funniest in the series. And then last but not least, my favorite is Hidden Miles. Leo is a wounded veteran and he refuses to leave his family's property. He stays on his family's winery until his online gaming friend Hannah is in trouble. Then he drops everything and leaves his family's winery for the first time in 4 years. And then the novella Gaining Miles is their mom's happily ever after. She so very much deserves it, and I love this book so much. Ben Gaines, so dreamy. The next series is not just my favorite small town romance series, but it's one of my favorite series of all time, and it is the Bailey Brothers series by Claire Kingsley. Definitely read the Miles Family series first if you're going to read both of them, because that kind of leads you directly into this one, because you meet the first heroine in the first 2 books in the Miles Family series. You meet a younger Grace Miles in book 1 protecting you. This book will rip you apart. It will rip you to shreds. And so will Fighting for Us. These books are the most emotional books ever, but they are just so good and it's so worth it for their happily ever after. I feel like I always scare people off from the Baileys saying like the first book is a little bit emotional and rough. Well, the first 2 books together. But these books are truly everything. I cannot rave about them enough. These are definitely my favorite of the series. Some of my favorite books of all time. I don't want to spoil it, but it's childhood, best friends to lovers, separated, reunited again. And then the other 4 books in this series focus on the 4 other Bailey brothers. Unraveling Him is Grumpy Sunshine, Forced Proximity. Rushing In is Boss's daughter and kind of a friends with benefits situation. Chasing Her Fire is probably the best enemies to lovers and surprise pregnancy books I've ever read. This one is so funny. Again, Logan will just make you laugh. Then we have Rewriting the Stars. This book is so bittersweet because it's the last book in the series. This is Single Mom, Star-Crossed Lovers. You basically get all the Romeo-Juliet vibes in this one because I forgot to mention it, but the Baileys are in a town feud with the Havens. This series also has a plot line that spans the whole series and it doesn't get resolved until the last book, Rewriting the Stars. And the feud plays a big part into that plot line and it all gets resolved in this one with the Romeo-Juliet aspect. I feel like I didn't do a very good job explaining this series. It is just absolutely one of my favorites. It is sweet, it is funny, it is steamy, it has all the elements that I love. I love the town feud, I love the relationship of all the brothers, I love their gram. I literally reread this entire series at the start of the year for Rewriting the Stars, and I already want to read it again because I miss it. My next favorite romance series is a new one. It's one that's come out this year, and the last book comes out in December. It will be 5 books in total. Each book focuses on a different sister. My favorite part about this series is that it's set in a small town that's based off Lake Tahoe, which is one of my favorite places in the entire world because I grew up going there every summer to my family's cabin. happen. I really love that aspect of it. I also love all the characters. They have such a good connection with each other, and their small town is just so cute. I want to live in Honey Mountain. It sounds like the most adorable place, and there's truly just something magical about this series. I have the first 3 books here. I'm getting the 4th book at Love in Vegas. It comes out later this month. I already read it. You can find out my thoughts in my last reading vlog that I posted last week or the week before because I read it then. But this series is seriously so good. It's quickly become one of my favorites. I think my favorite book is still the first book, Always Mine. This is a friends to lovers romance. Also, can we just talk about these covers? That's also why I love this series so much, because the covers are gorgeous. So first book is Friends to Lovers. Second book is a second chance hockey romance, which I really like. Third book is grumpy single dad firefighter meets his sunshiny romance author nanny. This is definitely the most emotional book in the series. I cried several times reading it because it was just so emotional, but it's really, really good. And then the fourth book, which comes out on October 20th, is Simply Mine, and that is a best friends brothers romance. Love this series. I highly recommend if you are new to small town romance. I feel like this is a great one to start with because these are a little bit shorter, but I seriously cannot recommend them enough. Go read Honey Mountain. The next series I'm going to talk about is actually the only one I don't own in paperback, but I pre-ordered it to pick it up at Love in Vegas, so I will have it by the end of the month, and that is the Gibson Boys series by Adriana Locke. I absolutely love this series. I read this for the first time back in 2018. I've reread it so many times since then I could not even tell you. I reread the whole series earlier this year on audiobook because it comes in a collection on Audible, and I really love the series. It's a great small town series. It's a group of brothers. Also, one book focuses on their cousin, and the heroes are just all grumpy small town brothers. I love them so much. The first book, Crank, probably has my favorite meet cute of any romance book I've ever read. Sienna is swinging around a bat while waiting for her friend when she accidentally lets go and hits someone's car. When the grumpy mechanic finds out that someone hit his truck with a baseball bat, he storms out there, and when he sees Sienna, he kind of just doesn't know what to do. Book 2, Craft, is about a high school teacher and the librarian at the high school. They also might be secretly online dating, but they don't know it's each other. Book 3, Crave, is a second chance romance. It has a grumpy, surly bartender who I absolutely love, and Hadley is such a great heroine. And Book 4, Crazy, is about their cousin Peck. He is the fun, loving playboy cousin, and no one really expects him to settle down, and they don't really take him seriously when he finds his first love. Definitely go read the Gibson Boy series, really any one of Adriana Locke's family series, and I'm going to talk about another one now. Another Adriana Locke small town series that I absolutely love is the Carmichael series. This is her newest series, and only the first 2 books are out, but I love them that much that I'm already putting it in my top 10 list. Fleur is definitely one of my top reads of the year. This is a fake dating co-workers romance. Brooke needs a fake date for a family party. She accidentally posts it online, and she ends up getting set up with her co-worker Moss, who's secretly been in love with her for the last 2 years. This book will seriously put you all in your feels. It's so adorable. Highly recommend. And then Book 2, Fling, came out in August. This is a friends to lovers honeymoon fling romance. Ashley cancels her wedding to her crappy ex, and she thinks she's going on her honeymoon alone until her friends offer to pick her honeymoon date, and they end up picking Maddox Carmichael, her guy best friend. I love Fling. I love Fleur. I cannot wait for the other 3 books in the series that focus on the other brothers. So I just realized this is my top 11 favorite small town romance series, so please ignore every time I said 10. My next favorite small town romance series is the Jameson Valley series by Devney Perry. I actually listened to this whole series on audiobook, but I ended up getting all of the paperbacks at Book Bonanza because I loved it that much. I will definitely be doing a reread of this series eventually. It was so good. This series has 5 full-length books and 1 novella. I absolutely love every single one of these books, and I'm so glad I finally started Devney Perry this year. Shout out to my book friend Logan because she always talks about Devney Perry and how much she loves her books, and I finally got on the Devney Perry train. I'm trying to go through this series as quickly as possible, but we have the Coppersmith farmhouse. This is a single mom meets town sheriff. They start off as enemies, but he quickly falls head over heels for her and is determined to win her over. Also, can we talk about how pretty these alternate covers are, because I absolutely love them. Next book is The Lucky Heart. This is a second chance romance. Felicity is finally back in town, and Silas is determined to get a second chance with her. The Clover Chapel is probably one of the most unique books that I've ever read. Nick and Emmy meet in Vegas. They have a whirlwind night that ends up with them getting married. The next day, Nick walks out on Emmy, and she doesn't see him for the next 9 years until he happens to move to her small town in Montana. Super unique storyline. I really, really loved this one. Then we have The Outpost. Sabrina's life is in danger, and she goes to her friend for help, and they end up whisking her away to the outpost. Her friend's friend Bo ends up taking her up there and continues to go up there and bring her supplies and make sure she's okay. and they very quickly fall in love. Then we have The Bitterroot Inn. This is a single mom and secret identity romance. You cannot read this book without reading The Coppersmith Farmhouse. I think the rest of them can kind of be read in any order, but you definitely need to read The Coppersmith Farmhouse before you read this one. Last book of the series is a novella. I could have read a full-length book of this because it was so good. Milo is injured. He's in the hospital to deal with burns, and he shouldn't have feelings for his nurse, Sarah, but he definitely does. Love this book, love this series, cannot recommend it enough, and the audiobooks are really good of all of these, but I also will definitely be going back and eyeball reading them at some point in the future. The next series I'm talking about is Devney Perry's newest series, The Edens. The series is incomplete right now. 3 books are out, and there will be 6 books in total. I actually haven't even read the 3rd book yet, but I loved the first 2 so much that it quickly got put up on my top 11 list, I guess. First book, Indigo Ridge, is a one-night stand turned more romance between the Newtown sheriff and kind of the town good boy. I didn't mention this with Jameson Valley, but my favorite thing about Devney Perry is that she has an element of suspense that's like outside of the couple in every single book, and I absolutely loved the kind of suspense thriller part of Indigo Ridge. Next we have Juniper Hill, which I would probably place in my top 3 reads of the year. I absolutely loved it. This is a single mom meets grumpy chef romance. Memphis goes to Quincy, Montana to get away from her life in New York and make a new life for her and her baby. Her new boss offers her a place to stay, but fails to mention that it's with her grumpy brother who doesn't really want anyone staying with him. But as much as Knox doesn't want anyone in his space, he quickly falls for Memphis and her son. And then I'm so excited to start Garnet Flats. I'm gonna hopefully read it this month. This is a second chance romance between a doctor and a boxer, so I'm really looking forward to this one and the rest of the books in the Eden series. My next favorite small town romance series is a series I actually read for the first time in 2018, which is the first year I really got back into reading. I also think it was one of the first series I read on Kindle Unlimited, which kind of got me hooked into reading a spicy romance, especially Kindle Unlimited romance. Basically, I'm very fond of this series because it was one of my first Kindle Unlimited indie romance reads that really got me into this whole world. Anyways, onto this series. It is the Blue Moon series by Lucy Score. This series is in 3rd person, which I know a lot of people don't like, but I really urge you to give it a chance. This is hands down the funniest romance series I've ever read. I absolutely love it. I forget which book is like the funniest. I think it's the 5th one, but all of them are funny. All of them are so good. Blue Moon is just the cutest, quirkiest small town, and you will fall in love with it and all of the characters so quickly. I reread the series so many times. I could not tell you how many times. Are you getting a gist with all of these series? But I reread this several times, and the audiobooks for it are starting to come out, so I will definitely be doing a reread soon again on audio. I truly love the series. It's absolutely amazing. I cannot talk about it enough, and even if you're normally not a 3rd POV readers, I really urge you to give the series a chance. Next up is the Cloverly Farms series by Melanie Harlow. This actually has an original series and next gen series now, which I recommend both. I'm kind of lumping them all together. The original series is 5 books. Each book focuses on a different sister, and most of them live or work at Cloverly Farms. I'm not going to go through all the books because it would take me so long to get through the original and the next gen, but the first book is grumpy older single dad romance, so how can you resist? The original series, 5 books, and the next gen series currently has 3 books, and the 4th book comes out in November. The 4 books in the next gen series focus on the 3 daughters of the single dad in book 1 of the original series. It's a little confusing, and definitely look at the family chart. It will make a lot more sense then, but I love the next gen series too. I love getting a peek at like the future from the original series because I loved that series so much, and so seeing them all again in this series is just so special. Book 1 is also grumpy single dad romance. This book is hilarious. I highly recommend, and I'm really looking forward to the 4th and last book in the next gen series, Tempt. It comes out in November. It's an ex-boyfriend's dad romance, which I know is just going to be absolutely amazing. Last but certainly not least, my 11th favorite small town romance series is the Wait With Me series by Amy Dawes. I don't know if this necessarily classifies as small town because it is set in Denver, but it really gives me a small town family vibe, so I'm going to count it at least. Book 1, Wait With Me, is kind of based off a true story by Amy Dawes. She was suffering from writer's block, so she went to write in a tire shop waiting room, and that's where her creative juices started flowing again. She ended up turning that story into a whole romance book, and it's so good. good. This book is actually becoming a movie on Passionflix. It just got like the green light and it's going to be filming soon and I'm so excited for it. Amy Dawes is just also the sweetest human ever, so I highly recommend this book, this series. I only have the odd books in this series in paperback, but book 3 is a surprise baby doctor romance. I know not everyone is a fan of surprise pregnancy, but this one is probably the best I've ever read. It is so funny. The 5th and last book in this series came out in June. Last on the list is a grumpy single dad nanny romance. I absolutely loved it. This has a plus size heroine, a billionaire hero, so many good elements, and it just mixes all to make absolute magic. I definitely just talked for way too long, but those are all of my favorite small town romance series. I'm such a big small town romance reader and I love a series because you get to really dive into the small town, meet all the characters, fall in love with them. Definitely check out my BookTok and my Bookstagram if you want more book recs from me. Like I said, I post daily on both of those and I'm always talking about small town romance. If you're new to my channel, you should definitely stick around and subscribe. I do a lot of work, productivity, and book vlogs, so I would love it if you stuck around. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and leave any comments down below. That really supports my channel and helps my channel grow. And I think that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it and I will see you in my next one.